It's time for another Normie reviews a video game. This time I'll be talking about Spider-Man 2 from the PS5. Hi everyone, my name is Jacob Airy. Welcome to my vidcast Studio Jake, where I talk about all things pop culture. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. All right, so for those of you who don't know, I do these game reviews called a normie reviews, and that's because I don't consider myself like a gamer. Like I don't spend hours playing video games. I prefer to watch television or movies. It's just my speed. No shade at gamers. Have great respect for gamers. My wife is a gamer. So when it comes to gaming, I often am told that I sort of have a normie perspective on it. And so I wanted to talk about that a little bit because I played Spider-Man 2 PS5. And I know it's a little late for a review of it, but I still just want to get my thoughts out there. So let's break it down. First of all, the story. I did find the story very interesting. Half of it. The Peter Parker stuff was very interesting. We get to see Peter Parker go from reuniting with Harry, who is possessed by the Venom symbiote, and then slowly over time, Harry starts to get a little bit more attached and he wants to use his powers for good. He kind of has the Agent Venom look that Flash Thompson has when he is given the Venom costume in the comic books. Now, just to warn you, there will be some spoilers. Peter eventually gets possessed of it and it increases his wrath and his rage. And eventually, thanks to Mr. Negative, who kind of has a redeeming arc, he's able to purge it from himself. But then it goes back onto Harry, and Harry morphs into Venom, and he is unstoppable. So, like I said, thanks to Mr. Negative, Peter still has some of this symbiote on the inside of him, but Mr. Negative purges sort of the energy out of it, disconnects it from the symbiote hive mind, and so Peter becomes anti-venom. And and he has to stop Harry from turning the whole city of New York into a symbiote infestation. It was very interesting. It was fun. I did like that part of it. Where it went sour was with Miles Morales. Now, when I played the first game, you'll recall I liked Miles Morales. I thought they introduced him well, even though I'm not really crazy about the character. Miles Morales is Miles Morales. I've got to be honest. The first game had a good story for him. This one did not. It was very pedestrian. It was slow. It was, they were just trying to gear him up. He's about to graduate high school. He's getting ready to go to ESU, and he's still learning about being Miles Morales in superhero form. But and one of the things I didn't like about it is they turned his mother into a politician. When she's introduced in the first game, she was this sort of, neighborhood mom that you could connect with. But then in his solo game, they made her a politician. And I was kind of hoping that what they would do with her character was put her in charge of Feast. So from the first game, Aunt May passes away, and then Mrs. Morales would take on that role, that she would become the new leader of Feast. But no, they had to downgrade her by turning her into a politician. And no, I don't care that she's an honest politician. It still, in my opinion, downgrades her a lot. So that's kind of my take on the story. Now for the gameplay. The As far as graphics, it is really well done. Now, I know that when it was first released, the digital version had a lot of hiccups to it. I have the digital version, but I didn't really have that issue. There was a few times when it glitched, like characters falling through walls, that kind of thing. But other than that, the graphics itself were really cool. They were just as good as the first one. I'm not going to say that they were better, but they were definitely good. I had a great time. I thought I liked all of the upgrades that they did to the equipment. I did miss the web bomb. That's the one where you can throw it and it explodes. They have a version of it, but in my opinion, the first game was better. And I had a great time swinging through the city, doing things like that. And I'll get more to this when I actually talk about the mechanics of the game. But as far as graphics, it was stunning. I like all the new costumes that they had for Spider-Man. I think they looked really good. Now, here is where things get a little annoying for me, and that is in the mechanics of the game. So they had these weird things you had to do certain commands, and they were difficult to do. So, like with your venom powers, instead of just changing an ability you already had, you had to, do a sort of a skill tree thing. Now, they had a skill tree in the previous game, but I felt with the venom powers, they were kind of lame. I'm just going to be honest how they did that. I think that they should have just readapted something, and that would give you a new challenge as the player to learn about. Also, the Mary Jane stuff, which maybe I'll talk more about that in a second. But as far as that side of it, the mechanics, just your basic stuff was fine. But then when you got into more complicated things, it or what was supposed to be more complicated, it was not that complicated. I think that and I played it on story mode. I didn't play it on. I think I played it on the mode above the easiest, and I had like I said, overall, I enjoyed the game, but just some of that stuff was weird. Now, um, I'm going to talk a little bit about what I didn't like. The new Mary Jane face model was awful. They should have had the same situation with the first game. They changed the Peter Parker face model for no reason. It was stupid. They should have kept it, and the same goes for Mary Jane. Miles is the same. Why can't Peter and Mary Jane be the same? But her face model looked like a downgrade. It looked like Bark and Ben Mary Jane, honestly. It was, and then later, I guess some people uncovered that she looked like one of the devs, and is like, oh, of course, we got to have the self insert there, right? She can't just be Mary Jane. We have to self insert the game dev. This is so dumb, but also her stuff was just as boring as the first game. I didn't like her levels in game one. So, and to my understanding, most of the players didn't like it either. They didn't, not necessarily that they were mad that you had to play her, same with me, but it was just how they went about it was really silly. And the same goes for the Miles stuff. Now, like I said, his story is pedestrian. So are his little mini levels that he has. There's one where you play his friend who is deaf, and I'm glad that they included a deaf character, but you're literally helping her commit crime. She's graffitiing all over the neighborhood. She sees a graffitier who's doing bad art, I guess, and so she tracks him down and then helps him graffiti more stuff, but it looks good, so it's okay. What? Why are we committing felonies right now? Why are we committing property damage? Now, the first person who she does the mirror for, he wants her to do it to, hide what the bad graffiti artist did. And also, there's like this dumb level where, of course, we've got to have, a gay guy there. He's helping a gay kid ask his date to prom or whatever. Why is this a thing in this game? Why? Again, mostly adults are going to play this game. Why? And the kids who would, they don't care about prom. It's so weird to me that people in the entertainment industry, whether it be Hollywood or gaming or television industry, they seem to think that kids are obsessed with prom, right? I remember there was a couple of years ago, there was this fad where all these prom episodes of television and movies were coming out. Now, listen, I was homeschooled, but my homeschooled group had a prom. Guess who didn't go to it? Me. I just didn't want to. It sounded lame. Don't stand around in a suit, all listen to bad music, and maybe get the chance to dance with my crush. Yeah, pass. Yeah, not happening. Same with my wife tells a similar story. She would have had to pay $200. Mine was at least free. She would have had to pay like $200 to go to her prom. Like, no, bump that noise. I mean, I'm sure people go just to hang out, but this idea that it's like this big deal in kids' minds is absolutely preposterous. Like I said, maybe if they get excited, if their crush asks them out or they get asked out by their crush, maybe that's the kicker. But all his levels were like that. All of his little side quests that you did, all that you and it was really weird. And also you're not connected to the police department anymore as far as the main Spider-Man story. So it's Genki from Miles Morales' game. He's the one who's your kind of man in the chair. I thought that was kind of dumb. Why not have him continue to work with the police? I know that maybe they just wanted it to be different, but they didn't do it correctly, in my opinion. Genki's not that interesting of a character. I don't know how to tell you that. He's just not. And one of the things I didn't really care for was how they made Yuri. So the end of the DLCs certainly implies that Yuri almost becomes like a Punisher type character. but then they just turned her randomly into, like, this ninja. Okay, she was a good shot, and she could throw a punch in the first game. She had no sense of that she had some sort of martial arts skill, and this game isn't even that much from the Miles Morales game. I think it's, like, 6 months or something like that, so it's been, let's say, a year. No one can develop that amount of skill in a year, no matter how good they are. It makes no sense. So why did they do that? Like, why not just make it where she stumbles on some of the technology that the Sokovians left behind, the mercenary groups, the Sable guys? Why not just make it where she stumbles on that and redoes the technology a little bit, and or hires someone, maybe that's a way they can introduce microchip into the game. So, but I guess the bottom line for me is overall, I had a good time with the game. There are some people who were complaining that the game was just a click X game. That's not true. It is a very fun when you're actually doing the things like battling Venom, catching the bad guys, fighting off symbiote hordes, that kind of stuff. But it was just the little side things that kind of messed it up. Where you didn't get a sense of fulfillment with the game. And that's my own personal opinion. If you disagree with me, I would love to hear your thoughts. So I went over graphics, mechanics, gameplay, and the side stories that I didn't really care about. And I would love to hear what you thought of the game. Did you have a good time? One thing I will say about this game is that it once again proved that Miles Morales is Miles Morales and Peter Parker is Spider-Man.